When I was a kid, the disaster we worried about most was a nuclear war. That's why we had a barrel like this down in our basement filled with cans of food and water. When the nuclear attack came, we were supposed to go downstairs, hunker down, and eat out of that barrel. Today, the greatest risk of global catastrophe doesn't look like this. Instead, it looks like this. If anything kills over 10 million people in the next few decades, it's most likely to be a highly infectious virus rather than a war. Not missiles, but microbes. Now, part of the reason for this is that we've invested a huge amount in nuclear deterrence, but we've actually invested very little in a system to stop an epidemic. We're not ready for the next epidemic.
All right, Shalom. I want to begin his lesson by giving all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shah, Wahar Rakah Kwadash, which in the ancient Hebrew tongue would be the correct names of the Heavenly Father, His beloved Son, and the Holy Spirit. I also would like to give double honors to my teachers, the head apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Much due honors and respect to the sincere brethren out there that's also laboring in His work. And as always, I want to say shalom to the believers, the Akim as well as the Aqua, which will be you brothers along with the sisters that subscribe to this truth as well. So yeah, this lesson right here is going to be obviously, centered around the opening clip, which featured this guy Bill Gates, in his presentation concerning warning the people, to be prepared in case of a global pandemic, all right? Which, mind you, that presentation was 4 years ago, man. So how ironic, now we find ourselves in the midst of a pandemic, all right, which have presented itself in the form of this coronavirus. And this is nothing more than the devil being the devil, man, okay? And it's nothing more of an indictment against the so-called white man. Because what you're witnessing right now is nothing more than a smokescreen and a distraction in the form of this pandemic, all right? Meanwhile, these devils have pretty much established a martial law, which is nothing more than a bridge to the New World Order, okay? And everything this man do is shrouded in deception, man, all right? Which makes him the devil, which, by the way, when you go into that word devil in the Greek, that word there would be diablos.
Strong's G 1228. Diabolos. Diabolos.
All right, diabolus. And it says, prone to slander, all right? Slanderous, accusing falsely. See, accusing falsely. Now, when you click on this word falsely,
falsely.
Yeah, it says not in accordance with truth or fact. See? Incorrectly, in an insincere or artificial manner. See that? Again, not in accordance with truth or fact. Yeah, and everything the so-called white man present to you, pretty much you have to question it, man. Why? Because this man is not in accordance or harmony with truth. It's not in his DNA to tell the truth, man. It's not a part of his makeup. It's not woven in his fabric, so to speak. Okay, when you consider the so-called white man, he's built upon two major attributes, and that's deception and lies and violence, man, all right? Fulfilling the prophecy spoken concerning Esau in the book of Genesis, the 27th chapter, where it tells you how his gift is the sword. So whenever this man try to establish his agenda, he never can take the peaceful approach. He's never going to diplomatically work anything out, man. It's going to be centered around violence. Case in point, when this man tried to establish his gun laws, in attempt to take away your Second Amendment right, well, it was done by way of violence, in the form of these false flags. This man set up these different school shootings, or the disgruntled co-worker to show up at work and open fire on everybody. That's a form of this man, going about establishing his agenda through his blessing, which is violence and deception and lies, man. And that's what you're witnessing with this coronavirus. And guess what? This is nothing new. When you take a glimpse into the history of the so-called white man, this is how he's always gone about his business, man. When you go back to 1976 with the whole swine flu epidemic, which I don't know if it was classified as a pandemic. Nevertheless, that was the so-called white man reverting to his attributes, which was violence and deception, okay, to establish his agenda. And that's what you're witnessing today, okay? This man in his attempts to crown his enterprise a success, which is in the form of this New World Order, and him reverting to his instincts to accomplish that, which again is violence and deception. And guess what? You could look no further than the scriptures. The scriptures actually prophesied of this, okay? And that's found right here in the book of Revelation, the 20th chapter, and starting at the first verse. And I saw an angel come down from heaven, having the key of the bottomless pit and a great chain in his hand. And he laid hold on the dragon, that old serpent, which is the devil. Yeah, and this is a metaphor for the so-called white man. And you see that word devil there, which again, when you look it up, it goes back to diablos, which pretty much means to accuse falsely. And when we clicked on that word falsely, it means not in accordance or in harmony with truth or fact. See that? So these are the characteristics of the so-called white man we reading right here. See, again, and he laid hold on the dragon, that old serpent, which is the devil and Satan, and bound him 1,000 years, meaning the so-called white man was in obscurity. That was a point of time where this man wasn't in power, contrary to popular belief. This man in his reign of terror has been so long to where you actually believe this man has always been on top. But that was a point where this man was in obscurity, and that's what the scripture is going into, okay, where he was bound, okay? Again, it says, and laid hold on that old serpent, which is the devil and Satan, and bound him 1,000 years, okay, which that time period was from around 3 AD to the 1300s, okay? Give or take 100 or 2 years, man. Okay? From 3 AD to the 1300s, this man wasn't in power, okay? And around the 1300s, which was the beginning of the Renaissance period, this is when this man came back into power, which when you go into that word Renaissance, it translates to rebirth, okay? And that's why when you read, when the scriptures speak concerning the beast whose deadly wound was healed, okay? Pretty much the so-called white man was reincarnated. The ancient Roman Empire, it rebirthed, and that started in the 1300s, in the Renaissance period, which again, that word Renaissance means rebirth, all right? Verse 3, and cast him into the bottomless pit and shut him up and set a seal upon him that he should deceive the nations no more. See? So when this man was in obscurity, when he wasn't in power, he didn't have the ability, if you will, to deceive the nations. Why? Because he wasn't in a position where he can, sign certain legislations and enforce certain laws. He didn't have the power to deceive the nations at this point. See? It says that he should deceive the nations no more. So there was a period, again, around 3 AD to the 1300s, where this man was in obscurity. Okay, and he didn't have the power to deceive the nations. And you see, this is the so-called white man's main objective. And the scriptures is spotlighting that, man. Okay, when this man went into obscurity and lost his power, the main attribute that was taken from him was the ability to deceive the nations. See? So you see what deception, it surrounds this man. Okay? He's shrouded and clouded in deception. See? It says that he should deceive the nations no more till the 1,000 years should be fulfilled. And again, that was around the 1300s. That's when the so-called white man began to come back into power. All right? And after that, he must be loosed a little season. And we are in that little season. This is that little season right here, man. Okay? When the so-called white man officially established his throne, which is America, you know, which you could say was around 1776 until this very moment. This is that little season where he was loosed. Okay? Now, what was he going to do in this little season? Well, let's jump down to verse 7. It says, and when the 1,000 years are expired, okay, Satan shall be loosed out of his prison and shall go out to deceive the nations. See? And shall go out to deceive the nations. So this whole coronavirus, and not just the coronavirus, anything this man present to you, whether it's in the form of his media, you know, anything he promote, is all centered around deception, man. And guess what? We're in a time now where this man is being exposed. Matter of fact, let's go there. This is the book of 2 Thessalonians, the 2nd chapter. And I started the 7th verse. It says, for the mystery of iniquity doeth already work. Yeah, and this is the Apostle Paul speaking concerning the so-called white man. All right, and in his letter, he was pretty much highlighting the fact that the mystery of iniquity, which is Esau, is already at work, meaning in the form of the Roman Empire. All right? It says, only he who now letteth will let until he be taken out of the way, and then shall that wicked be revealed. So pretty much this is the time period where this man is being revealed. Okay? And how is he being revealed? By way of the prophets. You know? We are revealing this man, and pretty much the instrument, if you will, that we are using to reveal him is the internet. All right? Matter of fact, this is Job, the 20th chapter and the 27th verse. It says, the heaven shall reveal his iniquity. Yeah, and that's where we come in at. And pretty much the instrument that we use to reveal this man iniquity is the internet, man, and in particular the YouTube. Case in point, this video that you're witnessing right now is a form of revealing this man's iniquity. See? It says, the heavens shall reveal his iniquity, and the earth shall rise up against him. Yeah, and this is ultimately what's going to happen. Eventually, all these nations is going to rise up against the so-called white man. And what's going to contribute to that is this man is going to be made naked and bare. Okay, we're going to reveal that he's the devil. See? And this is going to contribute to these nations shooting those ICBM missiles, you know, on this place. All right? So when you go back to 2 Thessalonians, the 2nd chapter and the 8th verse again, it says, and then shall that wicked be revealed. See? Whom the Lord shall consume with the spirit of his mouth. And again, this is where we come in. We would be the mouthpiece of Yahweh Shai, all right? And shall destroy with the brightness of his coming. And again, that's the climax to this man's rulership. He's going to be violently overthrown. See? Verse 9, even him whose coming is after the working of Satan with all power and signs and lying wonders. See? And lying wonders. Yeah, this man is a liar, man. See? Verse 10, and with all deceivableness. See? And with all deceivableness, man. It didn't say some deceivableness. With all deceivableness, man. See? And with all deceivableness, see? Of unrighteousness in them that perish because they receive not the love of the truth that they might be saved. Yeah, so anybody who subscribes to the so-called white man, by default, you have just aligned yourself with lies and falsehood, man. See? Which is going to cause you to be put to death. See? So what you're witnessing right now, this whole pandemic, this is nothing more than a ploy by the so-called white man. Pretty much him reverting to his instincts, man, which again is centered around his blessing. You know, violence in the form of the sword and lying in the form of deception, man. See? So real quick, I want to share something in closing, all right, what you see in front of you. It says celebrities, athletes, and politicians who have tested positive for coronavirus. And this is a joke right here, all right? You got these different celebrities and politicians, you know, down here in Alabama, at the University of Alabama at Birmingham, UAB, which that's one of the top medical universities on the planet. You have one of the top doctors, surgeons, to come out and say he tested positive for the coronavirus. Now, as it concerns these celebrities and athletes and politicians, all of a sudden you got these guys coming out and being forthcoming. Now, when you consider these celebrities, they don't even like the paparazzi taking pictures of them, man. You see, their whole thing is surrounded with privacy. So now all of a sudden when it comes to the coronavirus, they want to be open about it. Man, this is nothing more than a ploy by these elites. And these celebrities and these actors and these athletes, they're nothing more than lesser luminaries, man. You know? So they have a list. They got, it says, from Tom Hanks and Rita Wilson to the NBA's Rudy Gobert and Kevin Durant. All right? Kevin Durant came out and said that he tested positive, man. Okay? Now I'm just going to go through the list. You got this guy, Idris Elba, okay? You got Tom Hanks, Rita Wilson. All right, you got these different actors. Then you have athletes, You got the damn soccer player. You got Kevin Durant. See that? You got Donovan Mitchell. Public figures. See? All of a sudden, these people who pretty much pride themselves on being secretive, again, when you see these stars, these celebrities, what's the main thing they're doing? They're covering their face. They shooing away the photographers. They pretty much hate the damn paparazzi. But now all of a sudden, when the coronavirus come out, they want to be open and share their personal business with you, man. So that's just a nugget to throw out there, something to consider, okay? Moral of the story, man, the so-called white man is the devil, all right? So yeah, I just want to touch on that, Lord willing. It was edifying. Until the next time I say shalom.